YouTube vinyl community, various artists, jazz, Impulse Records fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about this amazing, amazing tribute to Sgt Pepper, A Day in the Life, Impressions of Pepper, released through Impulse Records in 2018. This is not your standard tribute album to the Beatles. It's an absolute fantastic journey on variations on a theme, if you will. So first off, just check out this cover. This cover is unbelievable. The back cover is just as cool. So, as the story goes, on the inside of this jacket, Danny Bennett became the CEO of Verve Records there, and he wanted to do something different to kind of celebrate Sgt. Pepper and to celebrate all these new up-and-coming jazz people. And there's some classics on here as well, but he wanted to combine the best of the jazz scene right now to pay homage to an equally important record for a very important label, for the Impulse record label. And so, I mean, if you've heard a Beatles tribute before, you've heard 100 of them. So, you've heard covers, you've heard the country version, the bossa nova version, or the blues version. There's a lot of Beatles tributes out there, but this one was really interesting. I bought it really much because of the cover. But I also recognized a couple of the names at the back, so I took the sticker off the shrink wrap. I knew Antonio Sanchez from the Birdman soundtrack. If you haven't seen that movie, Birdman, it's fantastic. The soundtrack is just drums, and I'm a drummer. So that for me was like Christmas morning hearing that soundtrack, and I've got the record. It's a fantastic listen. And I recognize somebody else on here. Who was that? Mary Halverson. I think that name sounded familiar to me. I'm not super familiar, but that name sounded familiar. And the rest of the people I had no idea about. It was because I'm a noob to a lot of the current jazz stuff. But this album takes Sgt. Pepper, breaks it down, and completely reconstructs it. One of the cool things that I read about this thing when I was doing research for it is they talked to a lot of the musicians on this record, and they said that, because there's so much meat on the bones of these songs, you can take elements of them and basically create a whole new idea or a whole new song from it. So some of these songs don't necessarily sound just like the record or even have chords that go in the same order as what the original song was, which I think is fascinating because that's what's so cool about the Beatles, is that you can write something. The Beatles could have written a song, and because it's got so many layers to it and so many wonderful chord combinations, you can take those elements and break them up and put them into a whole different bag and create this completely different world that's just as interesting and sounds just as unique to this artist as it would have to John and Paul and George. Then it makes for just a captivating listen rather. So like on the first track here, the Sgt. Pepper's title track here, this is the one from Antonio Sanchez, and for me, like I said, the Birdman soundtrack was just a knockout. So I was really stoked to hear him on here. Excellent heavy drum rolls. There's really spacey, fuzzy guitars in this thing. Odd timing to this as well. I think he adds an extra beat. He may have done something in a 4/5 timing, which is, when you're a drummer, playing anything outside of 4/4 is impressive. So put it that way. And he lets the tom drums do the vocals, which I thought was very cool, very unique. It really does take you away. But fascinating interpretation, great way to open the record. Instrumentally, just delivers the chords but played in a totally different way, or from instruments you wouldn't expect them to. So, like I said, having the tom-tom drums do what the voices would have done. Very cool touch. With a little help from my friends by Mary Halverson here, this one is really, really cool because I like the dreaminess of her guitar, but she also, so the guitar basically does the vocal part, but she adds these wavy, bendy, melting parts to it that are so fun and so catchy, and you want to listen to more just so you get another one of those bendy parts. And again, I should have mentioned at the beginning of this video, I have never reviewed a jazz record on this channel, and I'd like to, but I don't come from that scene, so my knowledge of jazz is, I know jazz, but I don't know jazz. Um, I know some of this stuff from Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, and Miles Davis and stuff, but talking about jazz, I know there's definitely terms you should use, or lingo, or way more scientific, mathematic uh, verbiage to talk about what's happening. I'm just going to do a Giggens style here, so bear with me. So if you're a jazz aficionado and you're watching this going, Giggens, dude, use some jazz words. I don't know him, man. This is as good as it's going to get. So when her guitar gets bendy and fun to listen to, I really enjoy that. um, Very clean drum production on this album, this song in particular too. But I just love the whole dreamy, melty effect that this thing gives off, which is kind of cool because it gives that warm element that the track itself does already have. So you capture moods, and you capture vibes, and you capture the essence of the track and then bring that into your own version of it to keep the spirit alive, but make it something completely new, which is most of what this album is. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by, I have it written down. No, I don't. I'm sorry. Micaiah McCraven. This one was really cool. The drum groove on here is just a bopper the whole way through. And you get some more dreaminess here with the xylophones, which I think are really cool. The bass is hypnotic, and its connection to the drums is fantastic. The lock-in that they have together. The atmosphere on this track is just out of this world. You are transported to a different place with this song. It's so cool. And they really jam on it for a while too. They definitely take this outro and just kind of work with it, which I always thought would be cool. Like, if the Beatles ever kept touring, I would have loved to have seen them, expand their live sound and make things jam out for a while. Because, when the Beatles were touring, they played the songs pretty much as they were. They didn't expand things too much, but with an album like Sgt Pepper, it would have been really cool to hear Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds kind of go on for a little while. So that wish is kind of granted with this song. Getting Better by Wildflower. This one gets funky real fast. It's a very loose variation on a theme here where they take elements of Getting Better and just kind of go off to a whole different planet with their version of it. The sax playing is menacing, and the bass drives it home so much. The drum and cymbal shuffle is great. This whole track for me just feels like a hot August night. It just feels like you're outside. It's summertime. It's muggy out. Totally unexpected version of this song. Just a great addition to this already knockout collection here. So, takes you on a whole other level. Fixing a Hole, Cameron Graves on this one. Really like an almost vaudevillian take on this track, which I think is really cool. Very like early jazz, like early 30s piano jazz, if you will. And it almost sounds like it should be in a horror movie. Like, it just sounds like a really creepy horror movie. But that said, it does have really nice warm touches of different chords here and there. So it goes from creepy to cool really fast. It's incredible how this guy can hammer away so passionately, but then the softer, more beautiful parts are played so fluidly and so expertly and articulately. But the riffing on here is very cool too. So again, you take a lot of the same chords, but kind of go different places with them. So very fun track. She's Leaving Home starts off side 2, Keon Harold. Wow, this song was awesome. A whole other level. I keep using that phrase because that's what happens. This album takes you somewhere else. It takes this album and brings it to another dimension. It's unbelievable, but stunning trumpet performance on this one. Just a knockout. It's amazing how that trumpet could sound either like it's in pain or full of life at the same time. And the trumpet does the vocal lines for this one, which I think is really cool. But it's almost recognizable at first. But as the song kicks in, you realize what the trumpet's doing, and you're kind of like, okay, now I get it. But yeah, very, very cool. For the benefit of Mr. Kite, Brandy Younger plays the harp, and holy moly, what a stunning performance on this one. The harp is a hard instrument to play, and hearing it done this way, in such a unique flavor, is fascinating. And the cool thing about on this track too is Ann Drummond plays the flute, so she adds so much more character to a song that's already loaded with character. It's just a really fresh take, and the marching at the end is very cool. I'm going to use the word dreamy again because the harp definitely evokes that dreamy. We've got this connotation between harps and dreams, and we're rightly so. It has that feeling to it, so I love that. Within You, Without You by the Onyx Collective, huge droning production in the background, that tenor sax doing the lead vocal bits, and the really huge thumping, thunderous bass and drums on this thing. Very cool to hear the saxophone play the vocal line on this because, being so used to hearing the original, this whole track is inspired by Indian songcraft and the way they construct a song and their timing and their phrasing, and to hear an instrument like a saxophone, playing that kind of rhythm and that kind of timing, it's fascinating. So very cool work on that one. Again, another unexpected type of track. When I'm 64 by Sullivan Fortner, I'm loving this version. Definitely keeps that vaudeville-inspired feel of just a piano. Kind of, again, a ragtime kind of feel, but really digging that one. Good chords, good jamming, good riffing. Kind of keeps it to the original there, but definitely adds its own flavor to it, so I love that. Lovely read about Miles Mosley. Tony Austin, I read his name on here. Tony Austin is the drummer on this one. He just rips through. What an incredible drummer. Cameron Graves, again, on piano. And it's a really heavy fuzz funk. I mean, it's an earworm for sure. This song is a knockout. It's one of those things that takes a theme and runs with it. So there was multiple parts of chord changes that they liked, and they went with that instead of just following the straightforward track. Outstanding. Good Morning by Shabaka and the Ancestors. Atmospheric, trancey, super fresh take on this song. It really feels like another Good Morning because it's like you woke up, it's a new day, here's a new version of this song. The dueling saxophones, very cool. More of that thunderous bass and drum kind of feel. It just adds a super heavy bottom end, a very spellbinding kind of experience. Then again, Antonio Sanchez doing the reprise, however you say it, for Sgt Pepper. Very cool cymbal swells and bell work. Very percussive on this one. Good reverb on this as well. So it's a nice blend of the drum kind of meshing together. Drums meshing together. And it does fade into A Day in the Life by the Juju Exchange, which has a bit of vocal on here, which I think is pretty cool. But this version is so good, and what a surprise to end with, because it's a bit chill, it's a bit loungy, it's such a departure from the original track, but the shuffling drums, the light and airy, crisp production on here, the beautiful horn section, it is a rich, dynamic tapestry for sure, and it's a tight dream world they've created here that is just so different and so unexpected compared to the original track. Just a magical way to end the record. I absolutely love it. I love the vocal harmonies on this track as well. Let me show you the inside here. It's only a 3-sided record, so side D is just a, blank record. There's no grooves on it. But so you get the name of the songs, who plays it, and then way more detail about the actual musicians playing with the lead musician, I guess, if you will. And let me show you the records here. The classic Impulse logo. Very cool to see that. Beautiful sounding album too. It sounds fantastic. And let me show you the second disc as well, because you can see how side 4 is just a blank side. Which you don't see too many 3-sided records anymore. So there's side 3 for you. Same thing as side 1 and 2. And then side 4. So you get a whole different logo, or a whole different label rather. And I don't know if you can tell, there's my light. Look at that. I got it. Haha. But it's just smooth. There's nothing on it. No grooves. There's a hair. Very cool. Alright. Let's get that back inside. Like I said, I bought this thing because of the cover. I saw the cover and I was like, that's interesting. And I saw the sticker on the front, which is this. Day in the Life Impressions of Pepper, and I flipped it over and saw the track listing, and I was like, oh, it's Sgt. Pepper, okay, but jazz people doing it. But the cover alone is fantastic. Overall impression, completely blown away by this thing. Totally unexpected, and a really good blind buy. This was actually on sale at one of my local record stores, so I think it was like 15 bucks for a 2 LP set. So couldn't go wrong with it. But absolutely love it. If you're looking to hear Sgt Pepper in a totally different way, in a very exciting, fresh, whole new narrative, pick this thing up. It's definitely worth your time. So for this thing, I'm giving it 8 out of 10, hands down, fantastic listen. Takes you on a journey just as much as the original record does. This thing just goes to a whole different stratosphere. It's amazing that they can take great music and make their own interpretations of that great music and make it sound just as interesting. So, well done to all the performers on this thing. And that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been A Day in the Life, Impressions of Pepper, 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.